Hey guys, what's up? We're back with another video on Rise Commands, and this time we'll be ranking commanders and the pairs of commanders for KVK 1. Okay, first up, we're gonna do cavalry commanders, and we split it up into four tiers. We got free-to-play players. These are gonna be the marches for free-to-play players here. Low and mid-spender marches, high spender marches, and niche picks. You shouldn't really pick the niche picks unless you really have to, but usually you have a choice for one of these marches anyway. For cavalry, our free to play march is gonna be Order City. Oh, here it is. 5 bars and oh man, I'm blind. Oh, there he is. Okay, it's Pelagius or 5 bars. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, but I would recommend Pelagius. I think he has better skills than Belisarius, but here you can see his skills. So for 5 bars, you see if expertise him. Um, he has a 5 target AoE fan that does 1000 damage factor. And what makes him really strong is his damage factor doesn't drop off with the number of targets. Like if I go down to the YST here, see every additional target reduces the damage to each target by 15%, which is not good. But he doesn't have that drawback, which is really good. This skill, 20% extra attack. Uh, this you don't really this doesn't matter. It's just a rally skill. This is good. When you leave, you get extra march speed and healing factor. And for this expertise just gives it more. But it's really easy to expertise epic commanders in the early game and late game too. But if you wanted to pair Belisarius with Bybars, they have okay synergy since where's the scale? Yeah, when yeah, whenever it exits combat, it gains 12% march speed, and whenever it exits march um, combat, it gets health and march speed too. So it will be really fast in the field, but it won't do too much damage because Belisarius he has a pretty weak active skill compared to where's Yes, right here. So his active skill does direct damage to target troop and 300 and it gains 100 rage, which feeds into my bar, which is pretty nice. And it also gives you additional damage factor for every second, which is pretty strong, which means it's around 900 damage factor to a single target, which is not too bad. While Belisarius only did like 450 to 1. He does do debuffs though, and 5 hours also, I'm pretty sure also does debuffs too, yeah. So it's a good debuffing march, but for main march, it doesn't really matter, but I would recommend Pelagius. Okay, let's go back to this. For low to mid spender march, I would recommend you can use Minamoto and buy bars. Okay, so Minamoto buy bars has a lot of options because Minamoto you can purchase however you want, like however much sculptures you can afford. But what I would recommend is you buy I don't know the exact amount, but it's on the Minamoto guide. You can buy this one, I think, and then one of these ones, and then you can get Minamoto 5511 for only around like $30, 30 US dollars. Pretty sure, yeah. You don't this is the main like active skill you need to max out. This gives you extra stats. These two don't matter as much, but if you can't expertise them, then you should use expertise Minamoto instead. But it's a really good budget option to get Minamoto to 5511 here. And then buy bars, he's good for all the reasons I talked about before. Pairs really well with Miyamoto and Cao Cao. Uh, I guess you could use him, but he's single target, and you usually want to at least one AoE between your march. Mm. if you can use it for duels though. If you buy a special offer and like you kind of invest into him so you can swap him in commander swap, uh, he'll be good. But I don't even know if he's still as good as Mina by bars. But another option between for cavalry is instead of Mina by bars, you could do Sun Tzu here, which is what I'm doing for KVK1. This is really good too because where's he? Sun Tzu, he's not really an infantry commander. He only gives, or is it? He only gives 10% infantry health. That's the only stat he gets for infantry. Otherwise, he gives 20% skill damage, which boosts Minamoto's active skill right here, which gives him massive damage. And then he's also his active skill Art of War. It doesn't fall off with the amount of targets that hit, and it gives Minamoto Rage, which is a great rage engine. Finally, for the high spenders here, we got there's multiple options. We got Minamoto YSG. This is the one I would recommend for most high spenders because YSG is like broken. KBK1 with Minamoto. I would use them, but I'm gonna save my sculptures for something else in KBK2. I'll make another video about that. See, he does well if you expertise. I don't think well if you're a high spender, you should be able to expertise in by KBK1 for major fighting starts. 1700 damage to 5 nearby enemy troops. This is really good for chaining and really useful, so it's nice. So, it's a really high damage factor too for KBK1. You get this gives 50% skill damage. That's broken. This gives Minamoto so much skill damage and it'll melt through the enemies. This is a garrison. This doesn't really matter, but also gives extra rage gained. It's another rage engine. So YSG is basically just a better Sun Tzu, but only to people who can afford it. Expertise I would recommend. Maybe if you get into like 5511, you could use them, but I don't think it's worth it to get YSG to 5511 instead of just using Sun Tzu here. So instead of that, we could use Sun Tzu, I mean Mina Cao Cao. This is a really, really like high spender merch. So you have to have Cao Cao expertise, which is not ideal because you don't want to be putting too much investment into a legendary commander so early game unless you're gonna swap. But if you are gonna swap, it's not bad. But usually Mina's YSG is better. And for the niche march, like tab march, you could do like this. I mean, there's not really a point to doing that besides getting 5 bars. Like 5 bars is 10 times better than them right here. Or you could put like a leadership commander behind me, but like something like that. Or what's it called? Where's it? Mehmet. Like this could also go here, but yeah, like you could use it like this. But Mehmet is versatile, but I would recommend just using Sun Tzu or YSG. I don't think it's worth investing to him, especially now. I don't think you're gonna get much use out of him in the late game. If you're gonna swap him, it might be worth it if you swap, but I think Mina YSG would just perform better. Okay, now we're back. We're gonna do the infantry marches. So for free to play players, what I would recommend and what I'm gonna do on the restart project and Project Vortex, which you guys should join. The link will be in the description. It's gonna be Bjorn Sun Tzu. This is an especially good march because if you look in here, Bjorn, he's one of the better epic infantry commanders here. He does a lot of skill damage, or he increased the skill damage that enemies take. Has a decent damage factor, and his damage is pretty good. He also gets good stats here for epic. Pairings they do a lot of damage together. Mm. And then there's also one more free to play march you could do, I guess, which is where oh man, right here. Sun Tzu at the fight is good. At the fight is pretty good at debuffing. And if you get F5511 before KVK, you could use her instead of Bjorn. But uh, it's kind of some people like really like since at the Flood, but I personally don't like it as much since my experience. I've seen people get worse trades with this than Bjorn Sun Tzu, but it doesn't really matter. Right? In It doesn't really matter, but I would recommend Bjorn Sun Tzu. And then for low limit spenders, I would recommend Purist or Sun Tzu. Purist Sun Tzu is a really good march. It does goes around to cavalry, and I dueled somebody with it. I gotta find it. Oh, I guess I didn't save it, but here's Sun Tzu at the foot against men. Yeah, CC. Not going too well for them, but I dueled them and I defeated them, but they got way more kills than me in the kill point trade, which was not, which was interesting to see. Because Pierce, I didn't know Pierce could be that strong. He had 5511 Pierce, I believe. So yeah, all these stats are really good. And that high damage factor is insane. Yes. Like if I bought the Pierce daily special offers instead of Cow, I could have been really good Pierce Sun Tzu guy, but I already locked into Cavs. Mm. So the Pierce and the Sun Tzu are really well combo combined together, and they do a lot. But another option is, oh man, I can't find these people. Oh, Charles Martel. Oh man, I can't pronounce anything anymore. But Charles Martel and Sun Tzu. I wouldn't recommend this as much as Pierce Sun Tzu, mainly because Charles Martel, he doesn't do as much damage. He's more of a, oh man, I can't find him. Oh, he's definitely not here. Right. He's he's definitely doesn't do as much damage as Pierce, but he does give good stats. And generally, Pierce pairs well with Sun Tzu compared to Charles Martel. But yeah, but I also have one more march for loaded spenders. That is Richard with Charles Martel right here. This march is a good march, but Richard, I would recommend that most infantry players get Richard to 5111 or 5511 for just because it makes it easier to do like bar training and other PvE game modes. But this is this march is only viable KVK1 because in KVK 2 and 3, like Richard just doesn't do enough damage and he's not tanky. Well, he is tanky, but you're gonna get destroyed by other people because you don't do enough damage with this march. But this march is okay for KVK1. And then for high spenders, you could just do full legendary that like this, or I would not recommend this, but you could do this. But this is not worth it, in my opinion. Richard is just not good. If you're a high spender, you shouldn't invest in Richard like that. You shouldn't use him on the field. You could do a leadership march behind him like this, or you could do something like that if you want. But there's a lot of options when it comes to infantry too. And then niche for the niche picks. I mean, you could use him instead of Bjorn, but I don't think he's that good compared to Bjorn. But the infantry commanders in KVK1 are pretty good. So, yeah. Finally, we got the archer commanders for KVK1. Archer commanders, archers are not very good leading up to KVK1. So, I think the free to play march, where we gotta find. I can't find anybody. Where's the? I think it's Buddha. I think it's Boudica. No, it's not Boudica. What am I talking about? It's this. This rush is okay. Kusunoki, Minota. Okay, I don't really know much about Archer Commanders right now because I haven't really used them too much, but he's pretty good. He like damage taken increase, the debuffing margin, yes. It's pretty good. Fast damage increase faster. Then Kusunoki would have primary, he does poison damage, I think, right? Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty good debuff in March, but if you're free to play, please do not use Archer. So yeah, that's basically asking to get targeted, and you're gonna lose all your trades super badly. But that's pretty much it for free to play because I don't want to encourage free to play to use that. So, but for low to mid spenders, you could use Kusunoki Wise. This pair is okay because you get stats from ISG, even though it's not that much. The skill damage, but still, if you're a low to mid spender, you probably won't have YSG expertise by the time of KVK1 fighting. So you kind of have like a half invested in YSG. Yeah, it's still good, but I don't think it's worth it to have. And then for our high spenders is where archers start to get usable. We got the most YSG. This is your go-to combo if you're an archer player. But, but if you're a whale, like high spender whale, you're gonna have more than like more marches. So you should only have one archer march if you're a whale, unless you're like a Giga Chad whale with like 5 marches. But you should have one of your marches should be this if you're a high spender because they pair pretty well together. The skill damage really helps out the most. Where's the? Oh, here it is. Yeah, the most he does healing reduction, which stops like Charles Metal returns, which is good. It gives a lot of stats here. But if you're high spender, you would have both of them expertise, I think. So yeah, he's really good debuffs here. I would not recommend El Cid because he's just not as good as the most or YSG and everything like that. Which leads us to our next pair, which is like either this or this. Because even if you like, I would never use El Cid for KVK1 unless you're like really want to use him. Like he's your favorite commander, which is basically nobody's. But anyway, like El Cid with anybody here is I won't recommend. Okay. Anyway, that was the end of the video. Hope you guys learned something, and maybe I'll do another guide video. It's been fun. Alright, thank you guys. Bye.